May 20th, 2024. Monet, could we have a roll call?
Bartles.
Present.
York. Present. Carroll.
Present.
Gardner.
Present. I'm trying to get
Klecker.
my button.
Present.
Lick.
Present.
Hume.
Looking for an approval of the minutes from the UAB meeting on April 15th. Looking for a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the minutes are approved. Public comment. This is the time in our meeting for public comments. If anyone has something to say, if they want to come up, state your name and address. Not a talkative bunch this evening. That's all right. All right, moving on to the consent agenda, acknowledgement of the meeting minutes from West Central Wisconsin Biosolids Facility Commission, April 18th, 2024. Could I get a motion?
I'll motion. Second.
Is there any discussion? Actually, Kevin, I do have a question.
Please.
On it. On the old business here, it says grant money is held up because of more questions before being released. I'm just curious what those questions were.
So they had a point person, this DOE, and then it went to another point person who then retired. It's back to the original person. And we got a form this morning. It was a lobbyist release form or that declares who our lobbyist is with the city. It's a one-pager. We're going to submit that if Josh already hasn't. And once that's in, I think we're like potentially days away from getting the 1.6 million. So I want to say days. That's probably an exaggeration, maybe a week or so. But I've said that a few times, but real close. Yes.
Perfect. Any further discussion? Looking for an approval of the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the reports. Kevin.
Yeah, fun meeting. Nothing too heavy tonight, but a good one here is Dean Seamuth is here to give us the 2023 Annual Consumer Confidence Report. So, Dean, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So this is our report. Not much to say. We do this every year. And different on this report is you'll see where we get to the UCMR. I'll go through it, I guess, real quick. This is our contaminants, byproduct, disinfection byproducts from our chlorine. You can see we're way well, maximum contaminant level is 60. We're not even to 1, so we're well underneath everything there. Inorganic contaminants. This is basically what's found in the ground that we have in our water. It's nothing we add. Again, we're way below our maximum contaminant level. And the only thing different with this year from last year, here's the radioactive. This is also stuff that is found in groundwater. That's just what's in ground. It's nothing added. Our unregulated contaminants, that is a 5-year rotation that the EPA requires us to do. And when we did this in 23, it was an unregulated contaminant. It is now a regulated contaminant we check for annually in our drinking water. They started us quarterly. Our first 3 tests were so low as there no detect. And so we now only have to do it once a year. So the EPA just passed, I don't know if we all saw that. Our limits with the DNR were 70 parts per trillion. That was the original plan. And the EPA just recently released it as 5 parts. Kevin, do you remember? I think
you're close there. I don't want to say exactly.
It's down to 5 parts per trillion. I was going to have it for you tonight, but I forgot it in my office.
But much more aggressive.
Yeah, it's way low. It's a much lower EPA regulation, which the DNR will have to follow. But being as hard, we have no detects. and we don't anticipate any in the future, so.
That's a really big deal, by the way, that no detect, so.
Yeah. And this is something we're required every 5 years. They come up with a list of, the EPA comes up with a list of contaminants they want us to check. That it's not a regulation, it's just something they want to check. So this will be on here for 5 years. We'll probably add our recent tests when we do next year's. We'll have our 24's test results. And we also did lead copper last year, and we're well below the level found in all of that as well. So, any questions?
I have a question
Yes.
on what you add to water.
What we add to our drinking water?
Yeah, fluoridation, for example.
We add chlorine,
Okay,
fluoride, and a polyphosphorus or polyphosphate. Polyphosphate is it coats the pipe, so nothing can leach into the water. Best thing to describe it is Flint, Michigan did not use the phosphate in theirs, so that's how they got their lead leaching into their water. So most cities do add it, and that's all it does is coat the pipe so nothing leaches in.
are you using the minimum fluoride or what? How do you,
Our
you know,
fluoride,
balance your EPA requirement versus health requirement?
we use our health, our maximum contaminant level is 4.0,
Okay,
pardon me, 2.0. And we keep ours around 0.5 is what our measurement. We test it every day. We do a residual test on our water every day at all our wells.
excellent. Thank you.
365 days a year, we go there and check.
Thank you.
So just repeat that again, so the limit is
The maximum contaminant level is 2.0.
2.0 and we're at 0.5.
We're at
So
0.5.
1/4
And we
of-
keep it at 0.5. That's where we can lower it or raise it. It's just where it seems to run the best. Taste the best, maybe, I don't know.
What's the EPA require you? Do you know?
There is no requirement.
There is no requirement.
We are not required to do it.
Okay,
It's not a requirement. It's the dentists want us to.
okay.
That's what,
Every year I get a certificate in the mail from the American Dental Association thanking us for putting fluoride in the water because they think it's a good thing for teeth.
and that's
So
the
that's
only-
really, that, I mean, that is quite honestly is the impetus for doing fluoride in the drinking
it's
water.
the only reasoning for it.
And
And I'm going to just educate you a little bit. We put about 2 gallons a day of fluoride into 1.3 million gallons of water. So we're not flooding the water with fluoride. It's a very minimal amount. So that's, I don't know what you're picturing in your head, but we asked this question at River Falls 101 and they're thinking like, well, 1,000 gallons, it's 2 gallons a day is what we put in
1.3 million gallons.
of water. So it's diluted very, so.
So Mike, on your question though, we have been conscious with that. I think the limit was higher at one time in River Falls and we've lowered it to 0.5. Which I would just say for communities that do this, that's probably on the lower end.
Yeah, the community I came from was right around 1.0. And the level used to be 4.0 and they dropped it to 2.0. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. Anything else?
I did have just one question. I appreciate you providing some context for people to understand how much water gets pumped in a day
Yeah.
and how much a million gallon, 1 point some whatever million gallons actually is. That I think that helps provide a lot
Yeah,
of context for
it's-
folks. I guess my question was more on wellhead protection, indicating in the report that we don't have any wellheads within the city. But when you look at the size of these aquifers that basically spread all the way across Minnesota down to Iowa, loop around up the eastern side of Wisconsin, just what we're doing in our little city is only so much.
Right.
What type of protections or what are we monitoring outside of our control, outside of city limits where there are wells all over the place?
Right. And we aren't. We monitor the city wells and that's it. I don't know how to answer that. We don't monitor anything else. I mean, we did just do a study.
I was going to mention that, Dean, that's good.
I don't have the results for it. I haven't even looked at it
So
yet.
probably not next month, but maybe the following month, we'll do a report on the study we just had done about our aquifers and water levels under River Falls, and maybe that will be broached in that study as well. But in the city, we do have wellhead protection zones around gas stations. You can have a well only so close, things like that. But outside the city, yeah, it's not in our control.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you, Dean.
Yep.
Josh Solinger is here. I asked Josh, I beg and cajole, because I just love it when he's here. I think he adds credibility to this presentation. Josh Solinger, our Finance Director. Thanks for coming tonight, Josh.
Yeah, thank you. And I know in your packet you have March financials. I'm actually going to just give you verbally some April numbers that we just pulled together today. And apologize for being a little bit behind, but then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the things we've been doing in finance that aren't just necessarily for the city, but certainly advance what you all are doing for the utilities. So, so for the electric utility, as of the end of April, operating revenues totaled $4,761,000 and expenses totaled $4,206,000. Revenues over expenses then for the electric utility as of the end of April are $554,000. This is actually a little bit less than where we were at this time last year, about $163,000 less. But the reason for that is primarily because this time last year, we had received some insurance proceeds from the 2022 hailstorm damage that we incurred. Just that insurance process, there's quite a leg to it, and we're still even now getting proceeds for other city facilities that were damaged in that storm. So we have to go repair them first. As you can imagine, contractors have been quite busy with that, so we're kind of just in line like everybody else is. When our stuff gets repaired, we're able to then submit the claim. The claim takes time to get turned around, and then we get our money. So there is quite a bit of a lag there. So we didn't have any of that money come in this year, but we did last year. That explains in large part why we appear behind from a net revenue perspective. Other than that, we're pretty much right on track. It's actually kind of striking overall as I go through this how on track we are compared to last year as well. So for the water utility, operating revenues totaled $957,000 through the end of April. Operating expenses totaled $731,000, or net revenue over expenses of about $225,000 and some change. This is actually about $175,000 more than what we had this time last year. And it's kind of the opposite situation from last year, where this year we've received a one-time payment from a developer to help defray some costs for some infrastructure we're putting in. I believe this is, don't quote me on this, I think it's the Oak Hill subdivision. There's some work we've done, and the developer made a contribution to the city to help us defray some of the costs of that. Because of the one-time nature of that, we wouldn't have received it last year. So we appear a little ahead this year. For the sewer utility, operating revenues total about $1.4 million, and operating expenses total $867,000 for net revenues over expenses of approximately $548,000. That's only $2,800 less than where we were at this time last year. So we're tracking right on where we were this time last year for that particular utility. For the stormwater utility, we have $207,000 in operating revenues through the end of April, and about $97,000 of operating expenses for net revenue over expenses of $110,000. Again, very similar to the sewer utility, we're just a tiny bit behind, but only about $5,800. So that could be due to any variety of reasons. It's kind of falls within a reasonable margin of error that I'm not concerned about it. And the good news is for all four utilities then, through the end of April, we have net revenues over expenses. So that's good news. So then from a cash and investments perspective, the electric utility has $3,566,000 in cash and investments right now. That is about $200,000 less than this time last year. The reason for that is that we are, so far this year, we've incurred quite a few capital expenses related to inventory, demand for various things we need to go install assets of the electric utility around the community remain high as new development comes in and things like that. So we want to make sure that we're purchasing the inventory to have that on hand to meet the demand when new development occurs. So that has drawn down our cash and investments a little bit compared to last year. Again, nothing that jumps out at me as being concerning from a policy perspective. We try to maintain 90 days of cash on hand to cover operating expenses, and then we have a debt coverage ratio that we try to maintain as well. So not concerned about either of those metrics. For the water utility, we have $3,985,000 in cash and investments, and in this case, we're only about $54,000 less than where we were for cash investments compared to this time last year. And that's just again due to some capital costs that we are currently incurring. We are still paying down some very small sort of punch list item sized invoices for the North Water Tower. Just vendors sometimes take a while to invoice us. So we do still have a couple of those this year. For the sewer utility, we have, and I've got a little bit of context to add to this one, about $4.5 million in cash and investments. Now this is up $572,000 compared to this time last year. The reason for that is, I'm a couple years into my job as the city's finance director. We have some other new staff here, and we're kind of going through periodic reviews of our balance sheets and looking at some of the cash we have restricted for various purposes historically. And we encountered some cash that had been restricted from impact fees that were collected from quite a few years ago, within the last 6 or 7 years. And when we consulted with our auditor, when we consulted with Trilogy Consulting, who I know you all as a group are familiar with, they do various studies for us, impact fee studies, cost of service studies. I know Christine DeMaster came in a couple years ago and gave you all a presentation. In consulting those two groups, we determined that the impact fee cash that we had kind of restricted on our books had actually been spent for impact fee eligible projects after it was collected. So once we kind of mapped it all out and reviewed it, we determined that we could go ahead and unrestrict that cash, which then adds to the unrestricted cash investments position of the utility. So the cash had been spent. This is truly just an accounting exercise of recognizing that we had some restricted cash that we could actually unrestrict, which is a good thing. And then for our stormwater utility, we have $457,000 in cash and investments. Now this one is about $279,000 more than this time last year. This one is expected. I know that's a big jump, a big increase. It's one that we fully expected. A couple years ago when I first arrived, we had just drawn that fund down for a number of capital expenses that we then have taken these last couple years to kind of replenish that fund's reserves. We do expect over these next 5 years through the capital improvement plan to once again incur some fairly large capital costs for this fund. Nothing that we anticipate needing to do any borrowing for or anything like that, but it likely will draw the cash position of this fund back down. So this is one that just kind of ebbs and flows. It's not a large enough fund that we're ever really looking at doing any sort of debt financing, but we'll spend it down, take a couple years off, build it back up, spend it down. So this, although it's a large increase, it is entirely expected and something we had planned for. So then zooming out a little bit away from the financials, I just wanted to provide you all some updates on what we as a finance department are doing on behalf of the utilities. So I think you may have heard some commentary before the meeting got started, but the annual Public Service Commission report was filed this last week, so that will be available shortly. That's a fairly big undertaking every year of pulling together a whole bunch of financial statistics, customer statistics, more asset-related statistics, number of streetlights, number of meters, all these things. So it's a very big report, got filed last week. We are nearing the end of our annual audit process. So if you kind of think of the world of construction, as you get down to the last bit of a project, you have, those little punch list items you're still kind of working through, and that's very much where we're at for our audit. So substantially complete. We've been fielding some questions from our auditors, but the ball is mostly in their court to prepare the financial statement for us, and we're just kind of down to some smaller punch list type items, things that just frankly aren't super consequential but required. So we're nearing the end of that process. And then just for your awareness, we're beginning our 2025-2026 biennial budget preparations. We're going to hold kind of an internal staff kickoff meeting on June 3rd to go over kind of macro, financial, and economic environment, things that we're observing and how those might affect budgeting expectations, and kind of reviewing the current adopted fiscal plan and kind of setting forth some expectations for our biennial budgeting process there. And then a reminder that our 2024 through 2028 capital improvement plan is available on the website for you all to review. This would be an off year for our CIP preparation. When we do our CIP, because that's a 5-year plan, we ask departments to bake inflationary assumptions into future costs that they're budgeting for. So there are no concerns right now that because this would be an off year and we're going to essentially just kind of roll some existing projects forward, that we're going to have any issues with, you know, the accuracy of our budgeting, because we baked those inflationary assumptions in at the time we prepared it. So we'll be coming back and revisiting the CIP next year. This would be an off year, and we're tackling the operating budget this year. And then I think kind of another update that Kevin in particular wanted me to share with you all is that we've had a couple of meetings going back to, we would have had one just this last February where it was the Joint Council UAB workshop to talk utility rates. And then I had reviewed them with you all as a group this last October. We're still moving along in that process, and we are now at a point where we will be seeking council authorization to go ahead and submit rate case applications for the electric and water utilities at the June 25th meeting. All of the information that's been requested. So we get assistance from WPPI to compile and submit the electric rate case application on our behalf, and then they sort of take care of a lot of the back and forth communications that may come from the Public Service Commission. We're ultimately responsible for providing the information and the answers to WPPI, but we're fortunate to be able to have them as a resource for us to navigate the process. I mean, they do this all the time for other member communities. And then similar for the water rate case, we have Trilogy Consulting, who I just mentioned, essentially filling that same role that WPPI does for the electric utility, but for our water rate case. So they're a resource for us to help us navigate the process, field questions from the PSC, and it can, in some cases, I've done one of these before, not for this city, and as we've mentioned, it's been some time since we've done these. So our last electric rate case here was 2019. Then due to COVID, it was kind of a delayed implementation, 2020. Water is 2016, and then we haven't adjusted our sewer rates, which we're also doing, but it's not PSC regulated. So we can do that as a city, just have council authorize adjustments as part of our budget process in November without a very involved rate case process. Those were last adjusted in 2012. So we don't have a lot of folks on staff right now who would have last navigated the rate cases that the city went through. The good news is we do have quite a few staff in the finance department who have navigated rate case processes, albeit with different municipalities. So we've got a good group. These are about 160-page applications apiece. So we've been navigating a whole boatload of schedules and financial tables and things to the tune of about 320 pages cumulatively between the electric and water rate cases. And like I said, we are now at a point where it's been substantially turned over to WPPI and Trilogy. They have had some questions they've posed back to us that we've been spending these last couple weeks answering and turning things back around to them. And we're now at a point where by all measures, we're on track to seek that authorization from the city council to apply at the June 25th meeting. And then we would have until August 1st to actually get it submitted to have it count as a 2024 application. So just wanted to provide that update. When I go to seek authorization from council, I will have some updated numbers as far as what we believe the rate impacts will be at that time. But just a reminder to this group, and I will do the same thing with the city council, it's ultimately the discretion of the Public Service Commission. So we have some room to negotiate. So this process can be a little bit of a back and forth, a little bit of a negotiation, but at the end of the day, as I mentioned in our last couple workshops, the PSC has a rate of return benchmark that they set. and it's set for every municipality that has a municipally owned utility. And then they essentially tell us what our rate increases need to be to meet that benchmark rate of return. And they actually call it an order. So at the end of the process, they will give us our rate order that may or may not have taken into account any of the advocacy we do. But that is how the process goes. So we were, at the time I last talked to you about this, expecting about a 6% increase, 5 to 6% for electric overall. Now it's going to vary by customer class based on a variety of circumstances, which we'll get into more as we get through the process. But overall, about a 5 to 6% increase for electric customers, and about a 47 to 48% increase for water customers. But that does still, as Kevin has alluded to several times, that increase would still keep us in the bottom third of water utilities in the state of Wisconsin for just for rates that get charged, because it has just frankly been that long since we've last done one. That still keeps us in the bottom third. So that's all I have for updates for today.
Any questions for Josh? Josh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Utility dashboards, you want me to go there? I can go there if you'd like me to, Chair. I think I'll just pick up kind of where Josh left off on rates and comparisons. I think Lene handed you a River Falls Municipal Utilities electric rate comparison sheet that I got just recently from WPPI Energy. It looks kind of like this if you're looking for it. Yeah. You can see there, the River Falls is on the left. The average residential customer at River Falls uses about 750 kilowatt hours a month, about $101.70. So that's what the average residential customer would pay in River Falls. If you go down the line, you can see We Energies is at $144 a month. Wisconsin Public Service is $117, Align Energy $128, Excel $120, and Madison Gas and Electric $144 and some change. So you can see, even if we get a 5% increase, 5 or 6, we're still going to be well below our investor-owned competition. So I think this sheet's pretty telling to let you know what's happening with electric rates in the area. And I even saw recently, I think We Energies is proposing another new rate increase that I read, I think, last week. So rates are on the rise. Ours have been stable. Kind of what we've been proposing is fairly limited. I mean, it'll be impactful to some. We don't want to underplay that, but that's happening. But I think that sheet is relatively good news for our customers to show you that we're very competitive. Other dashboard things I just want to briefly mention. Disconnects, we had started disconnects in April. We did 11. I think we got them all of those rectified. And then tomorrow, I think, is disconnect day again, Wayne. Is that correct? And the midday, I heard we were down to 3. So our front desk staff, customer service team does a great job communicating with those customers, making payment arrangements, and they usually get most of them taken care of. So, and again, our goal is not to shut people off, it's to help people. And they do a really nice job with that. Other things you might find of interest in a dashboard will be, so we just had a spring cleanup, and it was a record so as long as we've been keeping records. We had 1,298 people come through. I think Lene has that sheet in front of you as well. You can see that way on the right side, 1,298. That beat the 1,231 previous record. Oh, I take that back. Oh, it's 1,322 in spring of 21 during COVID. So second place. Some other good news on, we had electronic recycling happen, and here's some good news on that. We had a new vendor this year, First Choice Recycling out of Eau Claire. We just received their invoice today for about $7,800. Last year it was about $27,000. So we are almost 1/4 of 1/3 to 1/4 less in comparison to what we were last year. So this organization, if you're going to say, well, how do you do that? They have worked out subsidies with electronic manufacturing companies who are required to pay back into communities. And they have made connections with television manufacturers and other electronic manufacturers. So for every TV they get back, they get a credit. So they're making their money off the credits that are required of the electronic manufacturers. They found a way to do that. Our big expenses really are batteries. That was about 3,000 of that. And there's ways to reduce the cost of battery disposal as well. They said taping them together, sorting them ahead of time, things like that can reduce those costs. So I think that's good news. Price-wise, that's great news. And I was at that event for the entire time, and it was a well-run event. First Choice knows what they're doing. So let me see if I have any other dashboards before I turn this back over. I think that's what I have in the order of dashboards. If you don't mind, can I go to the monthly utility report?
I have a dashboard question.
You go. Nick, sorry.
Question statement.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm looking on page 18 on the Focus on Energy Program dashboard.
Yes.
What I like about this is results. What I think we could seek to tighten up might be how do we get to those results? Because I understand that we have, a shared rep, I believe, between ourselves and Richmond. And so what I'm looking at understanding would be digital, inbound, and outbound, so that we know how much we're going out and seeking to drive savings with businesses versus how much of this is just applications coming in from contractors as they're going through, new construction process and things like that. I just think seeing more of that action would help us understand the impact a little better. Every time I drive past the school districts, 24/7 lighting in an era of controls, I don't get it.
Right.
And so I have been in other communities that have, seemingly have done a little bit more on their external lighting fixtures and having them utilize, mechanisms that allow them to be at 25%. Then when you drive underneath, they go to 100%. Then they kick back down to 25%. So I'm just picking this out as a small thing, but maybe one that can help us guide as we go forward, because as you know, from a council perspective, we did have a recent meeting talking about conservation in a way. And because of that, I want to make sure the community knows that we are paying attention to how we take demand side management and put it back into the community.
It is a priority, Nick, and that's a very good suggestion. I know today our WPPI rep went out on a thing, it was called a Small to Medium-Sized Business Blitz. So she went out today and was visiting with 8 to 10 different companies about demand side management, if we could help them at all, looking for gaps or, give a number they could reach back out. So yeah, they did. They had a specific day, they called it the Blitz today. They were out knocking on doors, some cold calling as well.
Well, in my contention wouldn't be that this is either good or bad. We just don't really have a way to know because we're only looking at the number versus knowing what actions lead to it. So
Sure, yes, and then the activities, so that's good. So we'll have some of those activities broken down a little bit more. Because there's programs, right? We have programs like people are passively just signing up for them. Then we have active things like we were doing today. We have a design assistance for new construction. That's more active. So there are different categories of things we're doing. And yeah, Nick, that's good. We'll break those down for you and let you know where our activities are.
all right, thank you very much.
So then next, I know Wayne and Dean are here just to talk briefly. I think Wayne has a 3-minute presentation about what the electric utility has been up to. They're just like our quiet heroes. And as he comes to the podium, were any of you part of that outage last Thursday night or not? No, Wednesday night it was. Okay, Chris, you were part of that? So about an hour. So we'd lost our South Fork substation that feeds the university and about 1/3 of our town. Not even a big squirrel, it was a ground squirrel. Got in there and knocked out that entire transformer and about 1,000 customers, including the university. So our guys went out there, found the squirrel, did some switching and got it back in. And to me, that was pretty lucky. And then the next day we had some reports of higher voltage in the area, and we're like, oh no, what happened? The squirrel really wrecked something. Called our engineer out Friday morning, was going through everything and found a loose fuse holder that was loose. Reattached that, and all voltages went back to normal levels. So we dodged 2 bullets that week. I mean, you could have been a lot worse. When a substation transformer goes out, that's not good. And you guys got out there in prompt time and handled that. So anyway, great job to your team, Wayne, on
Yeah, it's
dealing with that.
kudos to the team that was out there. I mean, they're all great in their own ways, but it doesn't happen without them, right? So, yeah, to Kevin's, that was one of my bullet points for.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's a good
That's
conversation.
excessive.
for
I was
this
trying to
meeting.
kill some time as you walked up front.
Yeah, it works. So, as you guys know, Man Valley is a conversation piece from time to time. Our team's been working on extensions for Man Valley Lift Station. I guess I'm just trying to zoom in. How much do you want me to zoom in? I can zoom in a lot farther.
Sorry, are you folks aware of the new lift station that's gone in out there? As you find that, Wayne, I'll just say, so we had a sewer lift station right by the entrance of DeSanctis Park. When you drive into DeSanctis Park, it's a below ground thing. You might see a transformer, it's some above ground piping. Well, we just moved that about, I don't know, half a mile to the west.
About 28 or 2,400 feet.
Yeah,
actually.
but just about half a mile to the west. And we have to get power out to the new lift station. And Wayne's crews did that. So now he has his map up. You can talk about that.
I guess this is our GIS mapping system. I'll start with that first. I don't have the electric on unless Kevin would.
No, you can just point to it with your pointer. And
Yeah,
show where
so the lift station's kind of in this area.
a new one.
Correct, the new one. And the old one is back over here. The city worked with the school district and got an easement that went back of these homes along County Road M. And so, yeah, we were started at this corner of this intersection of County Road M and Dry Run Road and extended services over to the new lift station, projected to go online sometime in June.
3 or 4 cabinets. You just said there.
By the time we get to the transformer, it'd be 4 cabinets.
4 cabinets.
So, yep. So yeah, we're just waiting for their equipment to show up. That's just one project there. Streetlights are going in. If you drive around there, you've seen conduits and bases. Timing of that, I've heard July, August for streetlights, before the poles show up. But don't quote me on that. That's a sliding scale with that project. And then I'm gonna slide north here a little bit by the UW farm, and acronym is pressure reducing valve, PRV station.
So water.
Yep. Now we're moving to the water side of it, where up in this area here where my cursor is at, we'll be setting another cabinet to feed this pressure reducing valve between the high and low side of the pressure system on the water side.
You're going to come off your existing cabinet at the intersection of radio and right in there, yeah.
No, we're actually gonna tie into the existing.
Don't tie in.
Yep. By the time we looked at it both ways. Expenses of directionally boring it all the way up to is about 1,500 feet versus installing a cabinet was a money saver for the city utilities in the long run. And the easements or road right of ways are packed full of other utilities, as we know here on the utility side. So it's just a project that is next on our list to get completed. From what I understand, there's no timetable to get that pressure reducing valve online, but would like to get it taken care of sooner than later.
And then the big project right there.
Yeah, I'll slide down here.
This one we've been talking about for many years, for 5-6 years.
Yeah, so it starts on Winter Street in this area here where my cursor is, if you guys can see it on the map. Yep. And then slides all the way along Paul Avenue.
Both of those farms, our customers will be undergrounding those as well, I believe, too.
We are, yep. And then in this area, roughly set a cabinet, and then there's that one cabinet right here in the corner where the job trailer sits. We have to tie it all together from there. So that's a probably June, July project with our contractor that we approved their directional boring with.
And that's the piece we talked about last month where I said, now all the corporate parks will be able to be fed by either power plant substation or north substation when that section gets done that Wayne just mentioned, when that project's done.
Correct, yeah,
Big one.
it's a big one. Something that's been on our books for a long time. Then I'm sliding over to, cable replacement area that we've had a few outages already this year with some failed cables and work this, as much of this project in this Woodridge, East and West Woodridge area as our budget will allow this year. And that one, I haven't got a timetable from our contractor yet. But
This summer.
this
So I'm gonna
summer.
ask the groups, why is Woodridge Electric unique? It's not in the city. So we serve that since the seventies, huh?
Yeah, the cables say 79, 80 in that vintage, that time frame.
Yeah, so those homes are all in our electric service territory that are not in the city of River Falls.
Which we have others in other areas of the city is the same, but yeah, it's very unique that way for sure. Then I'm gonna still go back to a current project. Actually, the name of the project is The Current. If the weather holds out for us tomorrow, we will be adding a transformer to that 4 apartment complex building project in this area next to the Thompson Heights project. So hopefully the rain will allow us to do it, but time will tell. So we've been waiting for transformers for this project, honestly. The timetable that we got, their loads and capabilities and ordering transformers, Josh mentioned inventory, but lead times are a real concern for some of these projects. And it's important that we all communicated here at the city. We worked with them as best we could, but they started breaking ground before we could get the inventory ordered. So we're trying to do our best to get them the power that they need to get them through their construction portion of the phases. And when the transformer does show up, we'll have to schedule another outage and install the correct transformer at that point.
I'm gonna do a translation on that because Wayne is too polite. So Wayne was asking like, what are your loads gonna be? The first question he has in any development meeting, what's your load? Fill out, let me know, call me, fill out a sheet so I can order the materials.
Yep.
You don't hear. They break ground and Wayne will be like, I still don't know what I'm supposed to order. So
Right.
as soon as he tells them, the day he finds out is the day he orders.
Right. Yeah, and
That's pretty common, isn't it?
it's getting to be more common, unfortunately. And it causes a little heartburn, but I'm communicating 6 months to longer before these projects take flight, and that lead time of 6 months is critical for this time frame. So, but it's always the last thing that gets developed in a project.
And we do have transformers on reserve as well, but
Right.
some of these are special order, different sizes, and
Correct.
multiples.
Yep. And it's kind of first come, first serve, right? Other projects take precedence too. And the Thompson Heights project, as new services come in there, as we go by that area, it's as needed basis for new services. All the equipment and project is pretty much completed except for that. And then as I work down to, as the computer here is trying to catch up, a lot of you have seen the Uplands project or the behind Tattersall building, that project. We still have to install services there. They have temp power for their project. We're getting to it here right now where my cursor is. No timetable on that project, but it's still on our work plan, work list for this year as well. So, and then I'll slide over to Hovey Auto Body, Gerber Collision now it's called. Up in this area up here, they've asked for a 3-phase extension here starting last fall for some added equipment in their buildings. So, so we're working on that. That's one of our other projects we're working on right now. See, I kind of wrote down a cheat sheet here in case I would forget something. We're also working on pole testing at some point this year for our 10-year plan that Kevin and I have been talking about for the last 4 or 5 years as well. So that's on the work plan this year as well. So
Streetlights on Main Street, want to mention that?
yeah. So we did get some new LED replacements that fit the old poles on Main Street that you'll start seeing. Maybe it will be a lot brighter, I want to be honest. But it's I guess what I should say is it's been dark and dim on Main Street for a while. We tried the LED bulbs on Main Street. It was sufficient enough at the time, but we need to add the LED fixtures. We're coming into, some of the bulbs are failing, the LED bulbs on the old fixtures.
So just take note of that. There's a couple up now and you'll see they're brighter. Did you do the Cascade Main intersection yet? Or?
We did a few, not all of them yet.
So leaves on the trees, lights are in the trees. So it does make for a darker situation. The good news is it doesn't get dark till 9:30 in the summer here, but it'll be brighter.
Yeah, we got about 30 to 35 left to change out yet. On the 4 blocks of, don't quote me on this, is it Pine to Cemetery Road or Cascade? I'm sorry.
Cascade.
So, but
Might be a good time to mention, since I mentioned trees, those are ash trees, and I think the lifespan of those are probably going to be just a couple more years. The ones on the block that's most southerly, I just noticed the other day, the leaves are on there, but not that good. So the life of our lighting downtown in those trees, I will say enjoy 2024, because you might get some out of the 2025, but I don't think much after that, the way the trees look. So just to brace yourselves for that.
yeah. So I've noticed the trees around the city more pronounced here today when I was driving around. Some of the areas, especially Wasan Lane.
Yep. And we are injecting those trees on Main Street with some chemicals supposed to lengthen the life a little bit. So you're probably going to get a couple more years out of those things, maybe, but they're fading.
But yeah, then there's other tentative plans that are working behind the scenes that will continue to grow as the developers want to pursue other areas in the city.
Wayne, thank you.
Yeah. Any questions?
I have one. You can't have a lighting question and have me not ask. So going from the what I always call a corn cob, the retrofit inside the existing HID, what's the wattage change out from that to the fixture?
From the LED or HBS?
Yeah, going from the LED retrofit that was up there that was kind of insufficient on the light levels to a new Cobra head or whatever you want to call it.
Well, the problem with the old fixtures was the size of the bulbs would only fit a certain size into it.
And it's a full reflector, which is why those cops could never get them all the way down, because it's not utilizing the coefficient. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were roughly about a 45 to 50 watt bulb. The new fixtures is about 120 watt LED.
Well, just you have my support, because I used to drive downtown. It's like, how are we LED, but we have less light now with the newer light source? But I recognize it was an energy thing too.
Yep.
And we also have more illumination on our cars than historically we did. So there's some interchange there, but I think it'll look good.
You're going to like these new ones. They're bright. I mean, if you like light, you're going to like them.
Yeah.
They're bright.
Yeah. Christmas lights is going to be a challenge. With
So we
these
put
lights.
2 up in January.
Yeah, roughly about that time frame.
And someone said, hey, I see you put 2 new lights up. I can't see the holiday lights. They're too bright.
So
then we stopped.
right. So and we did stop.
They weren't that. I mean, someone noticed that, but it's really not that dramatic, but they're brighter.
They're brighter. So good.
Thanks, Wayne.
Great. Thank you.
And then Dean is just going to give a brief update on the dryer building. We have a $9.5 million dryer building going in. Dean gets 90 seconds to tell you what he's doing.
In 90 seconds. Okay, the dryer building.
The project's happening. It's
It
happening.
is. So I got some pictures today. Lene and I, well, nah, Lene did it. And basically we started with the basic foundation, forming it up. Can we see this?
Yeah, watch this.
Oh, Sterling told me that too. That one?
It might be that one. There you go.
Okay. So this is just the foundation at the beginning. Pretty much there's a truck pouring 270 yards, I believe, is what they poured for foundation. This is where we're at right now. This is actually, we're farther than this. This is this wall right now is underground. This is the frost walls they poured, and then they backfilled up to the top of this. This area right here is the dryer building inside of it. It is now up to the top of these walls. If we go here, this is what it looks like today. So look, these tops of these walls are the bottom of this block. So now we're at level ground, and then this is the dryer building. This is half of it, where these walls inside here are office space, mechanical room, and then over here is going to be the dryer itself with the wide open area where the dryer will be. And there's my 90 seconds.
See?
And that's it. That's our dryer.
I just said, Dean, you got a big project going on. We should, say something. You got proud of that thing. You're working with it
is.
every day.
It's kind of fun. Also, though, I don't want to put on the side burner is we are in the process of our new generator as well. So we had the electrician there today finalizing, state inspector was there. They finalized our plans of how they're going to tie in the new generator, and that's going to be happening in August. So that's fun too. So that's all I got. Any questions about any dryer questions?
Thanks, Dean.
The one thing is, once they get these walls up, it's going to be kind of a hurry up and wait to get the building itself. The panels will be here mid-June, so they're a little ahead of schedule on the block wall. So, but they are going to find something else to do. So that's it.
Do we want to go into the water utilities drawing poster contest? What water means to me? You guys are gonna. This is the fun. So we don't have this much fun too often. I'm gonna give a lot of credit to Lene for this one. So she went out and contacted the grade schools in town, and she got back 100 and how many? 156 drawings. That's a lot. They've narrowed it down to 10. 11. We added one more. 11. And so each of you have 3 blue stickers, residents designated water. And it's like the multi-voting. You can put 3 on one that you like, or you can spread them out. So we want to pick our 3 favorite. And do you have those laid out, Lene? Yep, they're over there. Oh, yeah. So we're just going to kind of do that. And then when we're done with that, we'll come back and I'll do some brief announcements and we'll call it good. So do we want to just take a minute and so what the goal is here is to pick a winner. And then because we're 130 years for our water system, celebrating 130 years of service, we're going to pick a winner out of here, and then we're going to blow it up, and it's going to be on the side of one of the trucks for the River Falls Days Parade. So, yeah, so when you're picking, think about a colorful poster that would show up at a parade. So that's the ultimate goal, and we're going to celebrate with this kid, and so someone local, some aspiring local artist is going to already be making the name for themselves from the 4th grade. We're going to hang them all up tomorrow. So 158 of them. 156 of them are going to hang up tomorrow in the lobby. So, and we'll probably celebrate our 11 finalists. I think we might take a day each and celebrate each of the 11 finalists for participating. The kids, it's amazing what some of these youngsters did. The art skill is pretty high. So let's take a minute. You got your 3 stickers. Again, you can put them all on one. You can spread them around. Yeah, so let's just go do that real quick. On the water, contaminants or anything. Is there anything, is it always been steady, or is there any trends up or down or anything? And how long of a history do we have data collected where we can go, oh, in 1980 it was here, and 2020 it's still here. You said
just content fluoride, or leads and coppers and metals and minerals. Well, the draft out where it shows if there's any, or it's just like, wow, it's a wetland, Jeff. I don't have it. You know, that's where I was looking at last
Kids.
you know, this year compared to last year. But we do have several years of this report. Yeah, I know you're. Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
Lene, we'll let you tally that then and let us know who first, second, third is while I'm doing my announcements. And I have to say too that without Lene, I'll just be honest, that wouldn't happen right there. I wouldn't do it. You're so good. I mean, it's a beautiful thing that you've done there, and it celebrate the kids. So this is good. Mute.
I thought I talked to Kevin in the middle of a meeting. But thank you.
So okay, Lene, do you want to go?
Yes.
What,
So you can. This is the
so
first
what's
place.
number one?
First place winner is Emily Voiles.
Emily Voiles with I Love Water.
Oops.
I Love Water is the winner. She'll have her poster on the side of the truck, and maybe we'll do two. You know, we don't know yet. It's not. This is. We could maybe even do three. So the second place one is Piper Cole Hagen. Beautiful drawing by Piper. And then third place is Animals Need Water Too. Robin DeManny. So Robin, second grader. I still can't draw that good. So there we go. So we'll be reaching out to these folks, letting them know, and we might do more than one. So they're all really nice. So thanks for participating in that activity. All right, can I do the announcements?
You can do the announcements, and I just congratulations to all of our aspiring artists and our winners.
Yes, thanks for playing, and we'll send out thank you notes and acknowledge those kids and those teachers that saw that through. It's a great job. They did a real nice job. Someone spent a lot of time on that. So I want to remind everybody about the regional power dinners on Thursday, June 20th at Tattersall. I think most of you are going. Yeah. So who is not? Okay, so most of you are going. So yeah, you have a nice dinner that night at Tattersall, and WPPI gives a little bit of an overview of what they're doing. So thanks for signing up for that. Now, National Public Works Week, May 19th through the 25th. I know our Public Works people today, I think they're doing it 3 times this week, all 3 of our grade schools, taking 4 big trucks out, talking to second graders within our district about Public Works, the new snow plow, I think big Clifford's truck. And so we're bring 4 big trucks. Kids can see the trucks, talk to them about what Public Works means. We send 4 staff out there, 1 with each truck. It's kind of cool. So we're celebrating Public Works Week. And spring cleanup, we did that already. And then Tim Toom was reappointed at the city council. Yeah, River Falls Parade is July 12th. You'll see at least one of these and maybe more on a banner. And you can be in the parade with us if you'd like to walk in the parade and throw candy. So we're ordering a lot of candy to throw. If you want to do that. Community Appreciation Event is August 8th. Be looking for sign-up sheets there again. It's August 8th from 4 to 6. Linnea will be sending out sign-up sheets asking for your assistance to shuck corn, serve hot dogs, watermelon, direct people to the root beer trailer, stuff like that. It's a fun event. And then next month for the June UAB meeting, we'll be voting on our chair and vice chair as we do every year at this time. And those are my announcements. Chris?
Perfect. Thank you, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Second.
This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.